It is a sensational day to just show up. Hi, everyone. Yvonne Heath here, nurse turned author, speaker, and changemaker, and your host. Welcome to Navigating Grief with Heart and Humor, where we talk about, plan, and prepare for grief, transitions, crisis, end of life, long before they arrive, and diffuse the fear so we can live fully now. Or at least that is what we aspire to do. Most often we have been in the deep trenches of grief and transitions and realized how ill prepared we were. And we want to do it differently from here on in for the rest of our lives. We teach by example, and we're pretty awesome. We are imperfect and flawed. We make mistakes, we learn, and we are committed to ongoing evolving, sharing, and doing it differently next time. So thank you so much for being a part of this journey. I am learning each and every day from you. And I also have the absolute privilege of speaking to so many wonderful, wonderful people and sharing their wisdom. So let's get started. The first thing that I always like to do, actually, let me share first. I'll share my fun fact, and then we'll just ground ourselves and we'll get started with the really juicy stuff. So I started, as I want to always bring my message with heart and humor because it's already serious enough. Every week I like to share a fun fact for you. And I thought, what can I share today? Because we're going to talk about some hard stuff today. And I wanted to share my onesies. That's right. In our family, we own several onesies. And sometimes if I'm having a hard day or I want to make somebody just laugh or smile, because when you do that, it also makes you laugh and smile and it warms your heart. So it's a win-win. So I will go outside in my onesie. I will go for a walk in my onesie, and I will even go downtown if I really need to make people laugh. So a few of the onesies we have, let's see, we have this monkey onesie, and we've all worn them, by the way. My husband, Jordy, kids, Jaden, Tanner, and we have, of course, a flamingo. Like, why wouldn't you want to have this gorgeous flamingo, right? The nose right on the top of your head. And there are several others, but I must show you my two most precious onesies. It's the unicorn, because sometimes I just need to be a magical unicorn. And of course, my most special, the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room. Yes, we all need to talk about the elephant in the room or the elephant walking down the road. Ha! So let's put these over here. We have like 9. And I invite you to go get a onesie because you know what? You can make yourself laugh, smile. Your kids might say, oh my goodness, what are you doing? And they will be smiling too. Okay, so let's begin with, before we have this conversation, let's ground ourselves, forget about the noise on the other side of the door. I always like to take 2 short breaths or deep breaths to ground myself, be fully present and aware and here for you. I invite you to find your own ritual of grounding and quieting the noise, or join me in taking 2 slow deep breaths. Always feel more centered and grounded when I do this. Something we can do at the office, in a classroom, wherever we need to, just to get back to this moment. Okay, so hard conversation today, or just really starting to explore things that we've normalized in our society that are making it more difficult to talk about plan and prepare for grief, to invite mourning into our lives. And we'll talk about the difference. And what I have really, really seen lately is how we have sanitized, medicalized, and professionalized our society. And of course, I'm speaking mostly about where I live, North America, Western culture, and it's different in many different cultures where they acknowledge and allow the hard emotions. And a perfect example is Day of the Dead in Mexico, where they come together once a year and they acknowledge that they miss those who have died and they allow all their feelings. Now, that doesn't mean throughout the year they talk about plan and prepare for grief, transitions, and end of life. Someday aspire to find out and travel around and really learn about all of these different cultural ways of being, of doing this differently. But I certainly know that here in North America, this is what I have witnessed, I have lived, and I aspire to be a voice for change as many others are as well. So let me just talk about these three words that I've thrown out there. We have sanitized our society, right? We do not want to see grief, death, and dying. We are starting to have parties and celebrations instead of funerals. Widows do not dress in black so that we see, oh, this is a person who is mourning, grieving, mourning that they have had a loss in their life. We certainly don't have anyone else who is grieving, divorce, diagnosis, job loss, whatever it may be. There's no physical, you can't tell by their appearance that they are struggling. We ask them how they are. Oh, I'm okay. They pretend they're fine. We walk away and say, okay, phew, I checked in with Joe. Everything's okay. We've sanitized, we've pushed it all away. We've pushed death and dying away, struggles, even aging, right? Even aging. Our elderly no longer live among us as the norm. And this is when I wrote my book Love Your Life to Death, I wrote about why we've become so death phobic. And it's not our fault, it's just the way society has been structured and evolved, and in many ways better and in other ways not, because back in the day people died at home, people were taken care of when they were ill at home. And when someone died, the whole community just showed up to support. We didn't hide it. And we feel like by sanitizing, by pushing all of this away, many of our older people, our elders, our seniors live in nursing homes and retirement homes. And so they live over here. Maybe we visit, maybe we don't, once in a while. And elephant in the room, a lot of children or people don't want to visit the nursing home. Oh, they find it depressing. It's all full of old people that are dying. And we've created this ageism. We're afraid of aging. We have all these anti-aging campaigns, which drive me crazy. I don't want to not age. Aging is a privilege. I have gray hair. I have some wrinkles. Well, I have more. My children love to point them out. I am proud of my age. We say, oh, don't ask someone their age. That's so impolite. Oh, I don't even understand that concept. It's not polite to share. It's like, whew, I celebrate. I actually celebrate my age. And actually, as we're speaking today, my mother has turned on this very day, happy birthday, Mom, 80 years old. 80. we're celebrating 8 decades. I mean, this is incredible. What a gift, what a privilege. Those who have died young or their families, let's talk to them about how they feel about, oh, we shouldn't ask people's age. Wouldn't they just love to age and wrinkle and have gray hair? We must get back to inviting grief, death, dying, aging, all of it back to community. It's just a natural part of this journey. And when we talk about grief, as my beautiful friend Maria Kliavkov of Healthy Mourning, she studied with Dr. Alan Wolfelt, who has the Center for Grief and Loss. Extraordinary. And they talk about how grief, as I say, also it's our internal feeling, mental, physical, emotional, whatever it may be, grief, how we feel when we've had a loss, when someone died, when our heart feels broken, right? And we can grieve. It's whatever makes your heart ache, as I said, divorce, diagnosis, job loss, all of these things. And mourning is that outward expression of our grief instead of keeping it bottled up inside. But you see, in our society, in our sanitized society, we want you to keep it bottled in. We don't want to see you dressed in black, angry, sad, mad, foggy, crying in public. We want it to be neat and tidy. We do not mourn as a society. I heard somewhere that they wanted to stop funeral processions because it blocked traffic or slowed down traffic. Isn't that what it should do? Isn't that what it should do, where we acknowledge a death, acknowledge the grief? And you know, when there's a whole big other subject, celebration of life, I feel like it's kind of a yes and sure. Can we please also have the funeral, the sadness, the grieving? Does it have to just be a great big party? Can we please, you know, again, when I read someone died, no funeral per their request, it hurts my heart. As part of sanitizing our society, we want to keep things neat and clean, and we don't want people to be sad. You died. I'm sad. I loved this person. I'm sad, and I want to share that, and I want my community to come together, to share stories, to share their heartache. We really need to understand that by converting our grief to mourning, by allowing our compassionate community, by embracing aging, by allowing aging, we will be much healthier as a society instead of living in fear of aging and dying. It's a very big conversation, and this is only the beginning. We've also medicalized everything, right? We've medicalized everything. I have sat with chemotherapy patients many times, and they're looking, or in emerge, in the emergency room, intensive care, wherever it may be. Everyone's looking for a quick fix. Nurse, I need a pill. I don't feel well. Okay, let's talk about it. Are you eating, sleeping, drinking well, getting some fresh air? How's your stress? Are you spending time in nature? Which, you know, not everybody wants to spend time in nature. Everybody needs to spend time in nature. Are you doing all of those regular things? Well, no, nurse, I only sleep 3 hours a night, and I don't really eat anything but, I don't know, donuts and coffee, etc. It's such a funny, this band-aid society where, you know, we want a quick fix, we want a pill, we want pills for grief because we don't want people to feel. We don't want people to feel. And, that again, this is a whole big conversation. And I'm not saying no, there isn't a place for antidepressants or whatever medication. However, I believe we need to be careful. We need to be careful about what is causing whatever problem we are facing. Grief and mourning. Mourning is a natural journey, something that we must do. Grief demands to be expressed and heard, and has society, community. We have this beautiful opportunity to just show up, to mourn together. That is the greatest medicine in the world. In the world. We medicalize everything. And then at end of life, instead of allowing a natural death, we fight the good fight. We give medication. Medical futility. We practice medication that we give that will not prolong a quality of life, but will prolong a sick life, because we see death as the very worst outcome. And I will tell you right now, suffering is a much worse fate than death. Death is a natural part of this journey. And of course, when people die suddenly or tragically in an accident, yes, my goodness, going back to that grief and mourning, we need it even more. And those who are in shock and those who are struggling when this happens, we want to give them a pill. We want to fix it. And how we fix it is by not fixing it, by allowing that grief, that mourning. And we need to be careful. We talk about complicated grief. Grief is complicated. We talk about if someone over a year, there's prolonged grief disorder. Is there a timeline for grief? The answer is no. And we want people to grieve and get back to work in a few days and carry on and pretend they're fine. How are we doing with that? Not well, my friends, not well. And guess what? The beautiful thing is that each and every one of us can be a part of the change by educating ourselves, acknowledging and allowing our feelings, by being a part of a compassionate community that learns to grieve and mourn together. And that brings me to professionalizing. Sanitizing, medicalizing, professionalizing. Those are my words. When someone is struggling with a mental health issue, emotional health issue, medical health issue, oh, here are the experts. How wonderful. I'll get out of the way. But many times we are our own grief expert, actually. I don't ever consider myself a grief expert. I am someone who will companion. I love that word. Dr. Ellen Wolfelt and Maria Kliavkov shared that. Companion people along their journey. What makes me, I don't say I'm an expert. My superpower is that I will just show up. I will allow those hard feelings and listen to those stories. So whether we need someone who is a professional, a therapist, a counselor, a doctor, whoever it may be, it's always a yes. And we also need our family, friends, neighbors, coworkers, those we love, to be a part of our journeys. How long? Forever. Before, during, and always. We need to just show up for one another without trying to fix, without thinking, oh, I'm not a professional. We do not need a PhD to love and support each other. Just imagine if every single person, or most of them, in your compassionate community was okay with just showing up, better than okay. They were willing and able to just show up, knowing it will be uncomfortable and they can't fix it. They're not a professional. They are there to hear your stories. They're there to acknowledge your grief and mourning, creating that safe space for you without a timeline, without an agenda, no attachment to outcome, just allowing your process, your journey, because it is an individual journey. And you know, the more we become proactive, those 7 takeaways, what do we believe about life and death, create our compassionate community, all of the things I teach and preach and live by and learn and get it wrong and try to do better next time. That is the process. And of course, if you look back and you think, oh, I wish I would have done this differently for someone, it is never too late to just show up. It is never too late to acknowledge that we wish we would have done things differently. And so, keeping that in mind, this is how change starts. By first acknowledging, yeah, this is not great. Well, how are we doing? Mental health issues, addictions, people with chronic illness, caregivers, burnt out, compassion fatigue, all of these things are calling our attention to doing things differently. Sometimes we feel overwhelmed, there's so much, and yet, once again, we complicate things. We complicate life, we complicate grief, we complicate death. If we all learn how to just show up for ourselves and we learn how to just show up for each other, no matter what we are facing, love and support and kindness, creating a safe space is always the answer, no matter what the question. Now, I always invite you and encourage you to bring gratitude and love with you wherever you go. Oh, I know this is sometimes hard to hear, and yet, again, we can allow those hard feelings. We can allow our sadness, but oh, look around. Oh, it's all so heavy. It's yes, and yes, it is. And allow your feelings and then move to now what? Go throw a onesie on and walk around. It'll make you feel better. I think I'll be doing that. And keep this in mind. We have sanitized, medicalized, professionalized our society, and grief and mourning and struggle and challenges and death. How can I do it differently? Because that's where it starts. It starts with you and it starts with me. And I am so grateful that we are having this conversation. And just know that no matter what, I am always here to support you along the way. I am learning as I go along, learning and unlearning, and I will always just show up for you. And you know, you can go to my website. There are many wonderful resources. Use my TEDx talk as a little reminder of how to just show up. My book, Love Your Life to Death, is always there. And of course, my program, Get Ready for Grief. And there are many beautiful resources in our resource section because this is something that we need to learn as anything else in life. The more we educate ourselves, Knowledge is power, and we can do this differently. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining me on this journey. You know, my call to action is always, if you want to create change, if you want to be able to just show up for yourself and others, plan your life, plan your death, and then just love your life to death. And always bring your own tambourine to the party. Thank you so much. We'll see you in the next episode, and we'll continue this juicy conversation and create change. And don't forget to get your onesie. Thanks, everyone. Bye for now.